for everyone listening right now, what are some steps they can take right now to start stepping in to showing up as who they truly are, saying what they truly mean, actually tuning into how do they even truly feel? A lot of us have worn a mask for so long, we don't even know. So like, how do we do that?
I think it's really important to normalize not knowing. Because again, I think this is another area as we get older in years, we criticize and shame ourselves for questioning who it is that we could be, for coming to the awareness that we don't know what we think, what we want, what we need, right? And I think that that's another area. And even going back to what you were saying, I'm really happy you clarified. If we're not being who we are in all of these different circumstances, unconsciously what we're doing is continuing to validate that belief that we can't be who we are, right? We gather friends, we put ourselves out there in all these situations. And if we're still not feeling that connection that we're desiring, the only way that our subconscious mind is going to make sense of it is, oh, because this is continued confirmation that I'm not worthy. So the practical is to become aware, not first of what we want or what we need, or even being able to make choices in that direction, is to becoming aware of what are our habits? How are we showing up? How do we think we have to show up for other people? What is the role that we're playing in our relationships, right? Because until we see in action what it is that we're doing, all of the moments where we're instinctually saying yes when we mean no, or not even pausing to check in, just showing up, as many of us do, as the caretaker, always in service of someone else, maybe even thinking that that's what selflessness or love is, right? We have to see in action the habits that are creating the dynamics that we're playing in our relationships, or that are keeping our focus away from the most foundational relationship, which is with ourselves. And then in those moments where we see ourselves instinctually going to play that role, hitting pause, delaying the conversation or the response, and giving ourselves time and space. When I was sharing that one of the most difficult decisions, if not the most difficult decision I made, was to take space from my family. And that was because of no fault of what they were doing or not doing. That was because I was so instinctually programmed to just show up in service of whatever they needed in any given moment, that I didn't have that space to pause. And as I made that choice to take the time away, to give myself that pause, regardless of how they were feeling in reaction to it, in fear of how they were feeling, in concern about would they even want to reconnect with me, though very affirmed that I needed that because I couldn't separate myself otherwise. And then I got curious. And then I spent time not even shaming myself in terms of what entertaining, asking ourselves the question. So practically, again, breaking the habit. A lot of times that means hitting the pause in those moments where we're instinctually compelled to act or play the role. And then not judging ourselves for needing time and space to turn inward, to begin to explore, ask ourselves, what does my body need in this moment, physically, emotionally? What's coming up for me? What sensations am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling that I might want to do with these sensations to help myself, support myself through them? So of course, these aren't, I think, steps that happen overnight, though. Change happens when we first see what we're doing. And then when we give ourselves the time and space without shame, without judgment, to get curious, to begin to explore. And for many of us, redevelop a relationship with ourselves, one where, yes, the world could still be requesting things of us. We still might want to show up in service of others, as I very much do, though we have a space within those relationships and within that service that we're giving to tend to our needs, our wants, which are changing in any given moment.
So take first of all, space for awareness, just starting to be aware of, am I showing up authentically? And then like, how does this feel in my body, right? Whenever, I've heard it said this way, that when something is a lie, or not right for us, we feel our body tense, right? And when it's aligned or congruent, or authentic, we can kind of feel our body relax a little bit, and you start to just notice that, right? Notice what comes up for you. And I think also like one little step is what you mentioned is just, when not saying yes when you really mean no. Like try it once today, right? Like when someone asks you to do something, take that one little step and actually try saying what you really mean. And it's kind of like one step at a time, but it's scary for a lot of people. But I think that, you mentioned about you also just taking a pause, right? There are so many people that believe they need a pause from someone in their family or their entire family, or perhaps a friendship, another kind of codependent relationship in their life, whatever it might be. But they're scared to set a boundary. They don't know how to set boundaries. They think, am I going to hurt that other person if I set a boundary? And can you talk about like, what are boundaries? Why do we need them? How do we make sure boundaries don't make us feel even more disconnected?
Boundaries really simply are limits or space of separation that we can create between us as an individual and all of our relationships. And to relate and to be of service and in true connection and in true self-expression, which allows us to be in an interdependent relationship where I'm me, you're you, and together we can join together in harmony. We can negotiate to make sure that both of our wants and needs are in consideration for whatever choices that we're making forward. We have to have that space of separation where I don't blend into you. I don't feel responsible for taking care of your needs. I don't feel responsible for your emotions. And that description is really what I learned in my childhood, that there wasn't separation, that I was defined by my achievements, by how my mom was present to me in those moments, felt very responsible because of lack of emotional boundaries, would hear moments or be disconnected from my mom in moments where I upset her or disappoint her in my actions or my expression. She would often give me the silent treatment. So a lot of us develop this lack of boundary, though boundaries are important because not only do they allow us to meet our own needs, which allows us to then give, it's the, air, when we're on an airplane, right? And the mask falls down, oxygen mask. I couldn't think of that analogy. I mean, it took me until recently to really understand, as simple as that is, the message behind that. If we're not physically surviving or thriving, it's very hard to care for another individual. So for many of us who have learned codependent or lacked boundaries, or who have even taken this selfless act of service to, be this idealized good person conditioning, I think that a lot of us have, boundaries are necessary. Having time and space for our needs allows us to give and support and be of service to other people. So learning where our boundaries exist in terms of, do I have space in my relationships to tend to my physical needs? Or am I always caring for someone else's physical needs? Do I have space to attune to my emotional needs? Can I give support and receive support in the moments where I need either, right? Do I have that point of separation? And when we either explore and see that we don't, then we have to stay committed. As easy as I think as it is for many of us to look outside and to wish someone would just act differently so that then we could feel or do differently in our relationships, the more empowered space really to be is, what can I do? Can I set a boundary or a limit? Can I show up a little less frequently when someone needs me if I don't energetically have the resources to be available? Can I acknowledge the moments where I don't have anything to give emotionally because I'm in a state of emotional need? And can I create that space and allow myself off the hook to not feel like I have to show up in service of someone else? And I think the important part of this is not just becoming aware of where my boundaries are and creating new ones. It's back to that step that I was talking about very early of making the new choices, right? Imagining and navigating all of the fear and concern of what will this person do?
Yeah.
Navigating and receiving the reaction, because at bare minimum, what we will do, especially if we've had a relationship for a long period of time, we're going to violate people's expectations.
Yeah.
They're used to us saying yes.
Yes.
They're used to us showing up. They might be used to us caring for them in a certain way. And now they're hearing that you need some time or space away, or You have emotions too, and you need consideration and support. This is going to be surprising to them at minimum. And especially if we're taking space away from a particular relationship, it could activate that person's abandonment wound, right? So now they have a very big reaction to what it is that we need that might not be anything connected to us at all from their own past experience. So we might get the reaction that we fear. Though on the other side of it, and just bringing back to my own relationship with my family, they didn't receive it well when I first made the request or told them essentially that I was taking time away. I know that there was a lot of shock. I know that there was a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of abandonment. I know we all share emotional abandonment wounds connected again to our relationship with my mom. What I know on the other side of it is how much stronger and authentic our relationships have become now that I walked through that discomfort, and they very much were open to reconnecting with me, as a lot of our relationships will be.
I think that's so powerful because people fear if I set that boundary, I might lose that person. I might lose that friend. I might lose that job.
Yes.
I might lose, my family. I might lose their approval. And would you say that if you know you need to set a boundary and you don't, because you think you're doing it for the other person, you're actually always betraying yourself? But also, I think it's powerful, just like in a goal or a dream or a business, to have that why beneath the why for why you're really doing what you're doing. I think with boundaries, it's important to know, to kind of set that why I need to do this, so that you can lean on that, because it's probably going to be met, like you said, with resistance, and kind of knowing, okay, if I really want the depth of connection with my family or with my partner or with my friend, if I really want to last in this job a long time and find fulfillment, having that big vision and why I'm doing this boundary, like I've got to set this boundary. Or if I really want, to be filled up myself so I can love and give more to that other person, I need to set this boundary, like having that why there, because it's tough. People don't get it. They don't like change. They think you're changing. They think that, you don't appreciate them anymore. You take them for granted, all those things that come when you set a boundary. But I love hearing your journey of how you set a boundary with your family. Took what you said, 1.5 years away from them after being in a relationship where they depended on you so much, but you needed to find who you were, how you really felt. And now you guys have that much more authentically connected relationship.
And I think even beyond the self-betrayal that you were referencing that happens when we don't honor or set our own boundaries and honor them is the resentment, like we were talking about earlier. It then becomes so natural for us to get upset directly or indirectly with the other person, holding them responsible for our lack of boundaries on some at least subconscious level. And then over time, that resentment can quite quickly turn into contempt, which has been studied in relational literature, relational research, that can be one of the number one killers, like points on which factors that contribute to the end of the relationship. So I can make a case not only will allow us to be in alignment with ourselves individually so that we can be of service to others, it will decrease the natural resentment that happens as a byproduct of us not having our needs met.
It's so powerful. I want to recap this. I know there's a study, I believe it's by the Gottmans, that show the one predictor, like if they watch couples, and I think they've watched tens of thousands of married couples, the one predictor that a marriage is going to fail is if they observe contempt, right? In that marriage. And what you just said is so powerful. It's like you yourself, if you're not setting a boundary, can easily start to resent the other person. That can easily form contempt. So you think you're going to not set the boundary because you want the marriage to last or you want whatever, but actually if you're starting to build resentment or build contentment internally, it can literally be the end of it. That's really powerful. Another powerful reason to just be aware of them, because I think that so many of us are raised to be people pleasers, and we think a boundary is not going to please a person. Right. So then we you know what I mean? And so this is so good, whether it's almost like whether you're doing this for yourself or you want to please that other person so much that you want their needs to be met. Well, the way to do that is to set your own boundaries, fill your own tank, make sure you're full so you can love more true, more connected, and more. So however you slice and dice it, setting boundaries is important.
Yeah.
But it's hard for a lot of people.
And this all goes back to, I think, the underlying kind of conversation we're having around belief, in the self and the worthiness that we have to set the boundary, to show up as who we are, to be supported and connected in our authentic self-expression. The more we, in action, live those choices every day, even when they're hard, the more, this is how, in my opinion, beliefs truly change. Affirmations are an incredibly important tool to affirm a new way of thinking, though that has to go hand in hand with these daily choices. And when we're acting in self-betrayal, when we're neglecting ourselves so we think in service of someone else, the belief that we're strengthening, like I was sharing earlier, is one of unworthiness. So when we shift that and make the small choices by setting boundaries, by allowing ourselves the space to meet our needs, to individually be in our own authentic self-expression, the more now we're living the experience of worthiness.
Sarah on my team and I have talked about this example of like how we're kind of trained to show up and wake up in the morning and put on like our fill in the blank, our name uniform and show up as who the world wants us to show up as. So, but what I want to ask you about that is, you were talking about this, the power of actually like showing up as who you truly are. And how do you do that also in this new world of cancel culture, of vitriol, of people attacking you if you hang out with people who think different or vote different or love different or whatever it might be? We live in this moment in time where people also are scared that if they are who they truly are, they might lose their job. If they're who they truly are, they might be excommunicated from their friend group. Like it is, I mean, I say this a lot, that I feel like the greatest form of cancel culture, the one no one's talking about, is us actually canceling ourselves before we're even willing to try. But a big reason for that is people are facing a lot of opposition when they are who they truly are. So how do you navigate that when you're a professor, or even at this day and age, an elementary school teacher who doesn't want to lose their job, but wants to actually be who they are, say how they feel? But I feel like people are walking around in fear right now that they can't even do that amongst their colleagues without facing that. So how do you navigate that in 2024? Because it's a thing.
That's so wise. I'm kind of repeating this idea of we are kind of self-canceling.
Yeah.
And how damaging, that can be in those moments of self-censorship.
Yeah.
That so many of us have that voice of concern, and, it very much could map onto the very real objective reality that many of us have witnessed or even experienced. And something I've learned after having very many misinterpretations of myself, my own work, out there at quite scale, is I've learned the limits of control that I have around how other people perceive the world around them, myself included. We're all viewing each other and experiences through our own filters. And what I mean when I say that is there is no quote unquote, as uncomfortable as I think this is for many of us, objective reality, where everyone, even in this room that we're in right now, can have one experience happen and us each describe it or experience it in the exact same way.
Yeah.
Because out of our conscious awareness, we're each filtering. We're seeing certain aspects of it. We're making meaning of certain aspects of it, or interpreting it in certain ways that are then going to impact how we feel about the experience. And that's going to further color the experience that we continue to have. So grounded in that reality that no matter how much as the person, as I shared earlier, I wanted to be liked by everyone, not upsetting anyone, after having moments where it doesn't matter how we say things, sometimes people will see and will filter and will interpret our saying, our actions, our self-expression in a way that's more connected to them than to it is at us at all. Right. So living in authenticity means, as I've discovered, which is quite difficult, even for me to this day, learning how to be misinterpreted, learning how to disappoint others, or to be someone that they think we are, when in reality, I know in my heart who I am. Right? And this doesn't mean, of course, two things. It doesn't mean that we take in all of the feedback, especially when we are deciding to live more publicly or to present ourselves more publicly, where, groups of people are seeing our ideas or hearing our ideas and seeing our self-expression. It, on the one hand, doesn't mean that we take all of the feedback in as truth, right? Because they're interpreting it. So it's more subjective than objective. So if I were to take everything everyone said of me as the reality of me and the experience of me, right, then I'm really going to limit myself in terms of disconnection from myself, in terms of taking on interpretations that aren't accurate. If, on the other hand, I don't ever allow, especially those that are closest to me, that I have trust and a safe, secure relationship. This is why relationships can be our greatest teachers, because we are blinded to ourselves in so many ways. So the loved ones that we trust and relationships that we are secure within, I've heard many difficult truths that I did not imagine to be true about myself many times over the years.
Yeah.
That it didn't mean I, again, just took it on as the truth of me. But what I was able to do was try it on for size, as I like to say. Oh, interesting. On multiple occasions, right, I've heard this interpretation of me or my behavior. Let me see for myself if I could see where this perspective is coming from. So then I continue to be empowered as I was saying, this kind of self-healer mentality as the expert on me, right? I don't have to give away my power because someone else said it, though I might be able to learn a new perspective of me.
This is big because right now, whether you are 12 years old and getting bullied online, whether you are, 55 and you're on Facebook and that person you went to high school with is mean. Whether you are, this comes in so many forms, or you put yourself out there and you're, with somebody that's, like I shared earlier, votes different, loves different, believes different, whatever. And then you just start getting attacked in your Facebook group from people you thought you were your friend. Like this cancel culture is coming out in all of these different forms right now. And I feel like it's silencing a lot of people. Like they're shrinking who they are. They're dimming their light. They're hiding in plain sight because they don't want to deal with it, but not realizing the cost of that, of not showing up authentically. And I love what you just shared, Nicole, because I think that is such a powerful separator. And I want everyone to hear this right now because a lot of people do not know how to handle cancel culture. And I think what you said is so poignant in that people out there, whatever they're saying to you, people don't see things as they are. They see things as they are, right? Which is what you just shared. They're seeing whatever you do through the lens of who they are, not as a perfect reflection and accuracy of what you're saying or doing. It almost in some ways has nothing to do with you. In a way, the way people are seeing what you do or criticizing what you do or interpreting what you do or what you put on social or how you teach or how you are, out there in the world, it's really just a reflection of who they are. And you literally can't please everyone. So in this modern day cancel culture where everyone has no barriers to entry to be a critic online, it's almost like, oh, if you actually say or do anything, get ready. Because everyone's going to face a form of cancel culture as part of this new reality of what we're living in. And I think what you just shared is so powerful because I think, number one, to kind of have this conversation, we know, oh, okay, it's not just me. It's actually everybody. And they're actually just seeing things as they are. And as we know, hurt people hurt people. So if someone's hurt, okay, it's not a surprise that they're throwing hurt my way for something that I did. And you're saying, a way to still bravely show up as who you authentically are amidst this cancel culture is to be aware that all these people out there that maybe don't really truly know you are going to see whatever you're doing through the own lens of who they are. And that has nothing to do with you. And then when you actually want an accurate reflection, that's when you consider the close people around you, their feedback, and how that feels. And that's kind of your benchmark of, I think that's beautiful because people are so scared right now. It is unnatural and it's unfamiliar for a lot of people, because most people are not in the public eye. They're now in a Facebook group, and they're now uncomfortably showing up on Zooms when they don't really want to at work. And they're feeling very much more public. And then things are, in chat rooms and social media threads and different sort of like apps at work and Facebook and Instagram and all of it. And they're feeling for the first time ever like they're at risk of being canceled in big ways and in small. And so then they're hiding and they're not showing up as who they are. And they're living in that disconnected, lonelier than ever state. And I just think what you shared is so powerful. It's like, okay, once you realize that no matter what you do, what you say, it's going to be seen externally through the lens of people who don't know you as really just a reflection of who they are. And it really has nothing to do with you. So, I mean, it's going to happen to everyone, and just kind of brace it. And it's not worth the price of living your life inauthentically, because that comes at the price of everything else, which is huge.
Jamie Kern Lima is her name.
Everybody needs Jamie Kern Lima in their life.
Jamie Kern Lima.
Jamie, you're so inspiring.
Jamie Kern Lima.